The Solana price, after this big dump to the downside, started to make a bit of a recovery. However, we found resistance here and are now pushing back down towards the downside. What is going on in the Solana price? In today's episode, we're going to look at the Solana charts to work out exactly what's happening to Solana and make some Solana predictions. So guys, if you watched yesterday's video, you would have seen that Solana was in this falling corridor pattern and we had broken out of it. And I did say that if we were to break out, that we would potentially find resistance around this area and come back down for a retest. And let's take a look at that video now. A substantial area for us to be looking at right now. What we do often see when we have these breakouts is we do come up to a position around this sort of level where we will test it and we can potentially just break straight through it. But what happens more often than not is we do then roll back down to retest it. Because as I said, I thought that we were finding some sort of resistance at around these levels, and in fact we did have this push even further up, slightly further than I anticipated, up towards the $173 level. However, we did come up and we were swiftly pushed back down, and what we're finding now, we are potentially looking to push a bit further down to the downside, but this is on the 4-hour chart. If we jump in to the 15-minute chart, something a bit clearer is actually showing on the Solana chart. And guys, as you can see on this 15-minute chart, again, we're putting in another falling corridor pattern. And what we're seeing is it's starting to find some sort of support around this level, which is around the $159 level. If we look back previously, since we've had this breakout, we've found good levels of support around here. We could potentially see a bit of a further drop down towards the $157 level. But in my opinion, as long as we're holding above $157 because of this point and these previous points here, that we're going to find some support and push back up here as we did yesterday. And again, what I would like to then see is we're going to push out of here and move back towards this breakout point. This shows as well that we're finding good levels of support now and we're getting buyers coming in at higher levels. And then our next key level of resistance comes around here at around the $170, where we did earlier on today find this level of resistance. If we look at a Fibonacci retracement, we can see some key levels in play where we've been playing around at the 0.382, and at the moment we are dropping a bit down below there. And our next area, as long as we're able to break above this $170 level, is realistically we then have our next level of resistance at around the $175 level, which, as we see looking back through time, is probably our biggest area to be able to break through. If we are able to break through, then we are going to be pushing back towards all-time highs, in my opinion. If we look back, we had this big breakthrough and then we found all of these wicks to the downside. You can see holding clearly on this line. Again, we found resistance at this level. This is okay, a little bit short, but again, finding resistance here. So as I mentioned, if we are able to break through that position, it should bring us back up above the 382, and then we're going to be playing around in this region. Now, obviously, guys, because of the chart patterns, it doesn't necessarily mean that 100% of the time it's going to follow exactly what the chart patterns do. It just is the most likely scenario. So in my opinion, this is what I believe is the most likely scenario. Because unfortunately, guys, no matter how accurately you can read these chart patterns, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's guaranteed to do this. But as we look down at the RSI, things are looking quite good. We're literally sat straight in the middle there, showing that literally at the moment we're probably around the sort of the true price, if you will, the true sort of belief that people are having for the price of Solana right now. Obviously, depending on the rest of the crypto market, things are happening. If Bitcoin's going to push and the rest of the crypto market starts to push, then we can see, obviously, Solana having some success. Now, obviously, if we look back to this area here, it gives us a bit of an indication about what might be playing out. If we do fall out the bottom of this wedge that we're currently in, then we could potentially be pushing back down towards this area here, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, at around the $153 level. And that would then be potentially showing us something else very interesting. So basically, guys, if we drop down to around this level here, we are forming potentially another shoulder, a shoulder here for an inverse head and shoulder pattern. And what that means for us in terms of a breakout, we would take probably from the shoulder line, which, so being realistic, is probably around this green level here, around $165, and we drop it down to the bottom of that wick. Then we bring it up to our neckline. Then we can see that literally to the dollar goes in line with a 0.786, which, if you look across, is where we started this descending wedge pattern, which is obviously great to see. If we take from the top of this pattern and we bring it all the way down to the bottom of this swing low, which is ultimately going to be our breakout target for this whole larger sort of pattern, then lo and behold, you can't write this, it's going to swing all the way back to the all-time high, to the dollar again, and then we're in a position where we potentially need to be able to break through. If we don't break through the all-time high and we put in another high at literally the same sort of level, then we're going to have potentially a double top pattern. And as you know, this is a very bearish pattern. But you saw the hype kicking in for Solana last week. Solana is obviously a lot more stable than it was after this huge boom to the upside. If we then move across and we get back towards these levels at all-time highs, I'm sure there'll be a lot of FOMOing in. And if we can push and break above up into this area, you know what happens when we go into all-time highs with other cryptos. We see them tend to take off. Now, as I've mentioned, this isn't going to just happen in a straight line. We could see lots of other stuff playing out on the way up. And particularly as obviously the weekend is due to finish tomorrow, we might see some other things going on. Now, a lot of the trading obviously goes on in Asia, and at the moment there's a holiday in Asia for the Autumn Festival, which will last until perhaps Tuesday, so we could see potentially a reduced amount of volume, and this could indicate that we are going to move a little bit slower. So bear that in mind, and it could potentially take a little longer to move out. But at the moment, things are looking quite solid. Solana has a lot now. After this drop down, Solana has now established some good levels of support, which should potentially hold Solana, and hopefully we can see another push back to the upside. And those of you who bought high and are perhaps feeling a bit sorry for yourself over the last few days after this big decline may start to be able to find yourself back into profits. Obviously not financial advice, guys. Go away and do your own research. Trading is risky, and never risk any more money than you can afford to lose. Please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and if you're new to the channel and you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button. I'm going to be doing some giveaways. Now that we've hit over 10,000 subscribers, guys, I'm going to start doing some giveaways, so make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you want to be in with a chance of winning some crypto giveaways. Thanks very much for watching. See you again soon. Bye-bye.